Yeah, I think you probably.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It is February the 18th, 2026 at 9 a.m. Time to call the Indianapolis Metropolitan Planning Organization Policy Meeting to order. We'll start here with an introduction from Mayor Steve Barnett, City of Franklin. We'll
Mark Rankin in Lincoln County. Brad Davis. Then Morrow City Green. Jack from Town of Burgersville.
Ryan Will at Indigo. Jim Parent, City of Lawrence. Jim Cochran, City of Detroit.
Matt Light, City of Noblesville.
Amy Groff and Dot.
Lance Thomas, Maxwell.
Oliver Carmel.
Luke Maston, Johnson County.
Park Ward, Town of Danville.
Eric Wolf in Andrews County. Kyle Swalls, Morgan County. Sean Northup, MDO.
Anna Gremley, MPO. Ben Hayman, MPO. Jennifer Kroll, MPO. Andrea Miller, MPO. Jochi Martin, MPO. Annie Dixon, MPO. Abby Ray.
Patrick Sam, Marcel.
Huck Lewis, Lockheed Group.
Lisa, and
Jason Long, Fishback.
And Molson, Kimberly Horner.
Stacy Connor, BS Engineering. The left BA. Debbie Campbell, Revenue. Exam, ENCF.
All right, thank you all for being here today. We'll get into the second item on the agenda, State House Legislative Update, Ice Snorer Representative.
We have a couple of them. We have Abby and PM. We pay them to be over at the State House. They're first on the agenda, so they can get back to the State House.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Lots of familiar faces. I think I updated you on a lot of these bills about 2 weeks ago, but a lot has changed since then. So we'll kind of go through that. Short session. We are wrapping up here in the last week and a half. They are anticipated to adjourn by the 27th of this month. The committee report deadline is tomorrow. Second reading deadline is Monday and third reading deadline is Tuesday. So everything's moving very quickly. A lot of what we give you an update on today probably is going to change here at some point within the next 48 to
or 6 hours.
Yeah. So we'll see. But anyway, with that, we will jump right in here. 10:01.
Yeah, 10:01 is being heard today at 1:30. The Senate committee met pretty late last night over various matters with pertaining to that bill. Senator Garton has the bill. Representative Doug Miller is the House author. There's opt-out provisions. I think those opt-out provisions will stay, but then there's a data collection item to that. To not just collect data. It's a housing bill. Do not collect just data. But if your developer or your petitioner, even on a project that you approve, if they ask for delays or, hey, there's something we're not ready for the next step in the APC meeting or the platting or whatever step, make a narrative, write down why or how or who asked for it. Because here's why. They have now data, and the general complaint in some areas, in Central Indiana, I would say we're a little bit different. In some areas is that communities continuously delay or just string out the process. Right, wrong, or indifferent, not here to talk about that. But if you have a narrative, because my personal experience as well as professional experience, there's a lot of good reasons why developers are like, hey, I'm not ready for that. Somebody's out of town, whatever the matter may be. Write that down, put it in the spreadsheet, however you collect and obtain that data, put it down so you actually can go back and go, no, that wasn't a 2-year process. It was actually this. The developer had some financing issues, whatever the situation may be. Make sure you record that. That opt-out provision will stay. I do think that the Senate will water down some of the provisions that are in 10:01. They are talking with Representative Miller. A lot of you, I would assume, will probably be at the State House at some point today. A lot of your colleagues are as well throughout the state. But I would encourage you to really talk to your legislators and continue to talk to them pretty heavily as we finish out the legislative session on this bill. There's a lot of different restrictions and considered in this bill, but we could take up all sorts of time today, and I will tell you at by 3:30 today, a lot that this conversation would be moot or completely different. So we send a weekly update. Look for that update over the weekend when Anna transmits that, because that will contain what exactly occurred. If you do have questions, though, if there's some one-off issues where it happens that your community, your county gets impacted uniquely, give us a ring. We'd be happy to talk about it and see what that may happen. You may think it's uniquely to you, and oftentimes it's to others as well that may not be paying as much attention to that as well. Is there anything?
No, I think you covered it. It'll change. So we'll keep everyone. The NDOT agency bill, there might be some people that can talk more about NDOT processes here better than I can. So if I butcher it, you can call me out. There are a lot of things in here. It was just amended this week, and then it's actually in the House Ways and Means Committee later today. So there could be some fiscal changes to the bill. It does a lot. We tried to kind of pick out the main things here. So there's a fix from Senate Bill 5 last year. I mentioned this last time. It exempted NDOT. That was a big fiscal contracting bill that required that state agencies report to the state budget agency. There was a provision in there that basically said that NDOT didn't have to report on horizontal construction. But the way that it was written, they didn't have to report on new contracts themselves, but they did have to report still on all the different change orders, and that was not the intent. So Senate Bill 179 this year is fixing that. There are provisions in there dealing with community crossings. So it amends those provisions and allocates an additional $75 million for applicants who were denied in the December call. That doesn't impact everyone by any means. And this is not new money. It's money that was already in the account that they are making available now. And then there was a new provision added yesterday, I believe, that says that NDOT can give preference in awarding grants from the fund to local units that have adopted an enhanced asset management plan.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You done with that one?
Yeah.
1210 is the DLGF bill.
No, sorry, I'm not. There are several things. Lane mile distribution, it accelerates the lane mile distribution. It moves the data from June 30th, 2027 to June 30th of this year. It unstacks the wheel tax for counties and municipalities. So last year, the NDOT bill, what that did is you had to adopt a wheel tax in order to receive the community crossings dollars, and it allowed them to overlap, so someone would be essentially double taxed. What this is doing is it's saying you cannot do that. So with Senate Bill 179, the county can no longer collect its wheel tax on vehicles that are already registered within a municipality.
Does that mean the county doesn't have to distribute out any of their money to those municipalities?
I think it's fixing that where, you were only really receiving like 20 cents or something if you were taxing $1, and that gets rid of that issue, is my understanding. The $50 million match for Indianapolis that occurred last year as well, it's kind of clarifying some things and changing, saying that the match has to be new revenue each year and that it will only continue as long as Indianapolis continues to match those dollars. So the point was that it doesn't roll over and they have to attribute new dollars each year. Let's see. There are some provisions in there that allows NDOT to assume certain federal environmental review responsibilities. So it fulfills the requirement that's needed for a waiver of sovereign immunity for the state to apply for an NEPA assignment. So that will really get rid of a lot of kind of the double study that's going on right now where NDOT has to look at it and the federal government. It'll allow NDOT to just do that. So it'll alleviate some of the burdensome process there and hopefully speed things up. There's a provision dealing with.
So for that note about NDOT,
Mhm.
I'm not as familiar with what that means for roadway projects, LPAs. Do we know, is that going to require any additional staffing by NDOT to meet those requirements, or is it just an assumption of liability?
I think it's just an assumption of liability. NDOT has testified at length on this, and they haven't mentioned that it would require any additional manpower for that.
Great, thank you.
there's a provision dealing with single overweight truck permits. Right now, the law is kind of silent on how long those last. It's clarifying that they're going to last for 5 days. Apparently, there was quite a bit of abuse with that for those single trip permits. Someone was using it for more than just the allotted time. And then there is an increase for the population thresholds for community crossing. So it's decreasing the local match from 50 to 20% for cities and towns with the population above 10,000 and below 12,500. So it's capturing, I think it's about 13 or 11 more cities and towns that will be eligible for that funding. And now I'm done.
Okay. You can continue on. There's a BMV bill from Pressel as well, passed out of the Senate Homeland and Security in second reading calendar in coming days. It's a BMV agency bill, legal driving age piece makes changes to that. One of which is the required age an individual must be to obtain a driver's license from 16 years and 90 days to 16 years of age, which means my 16-year-old daughter would already have her driver's license. So you're effectively just shortening those 90-day time period. The bigger bill, 1204 DLGF bill, was amended yesterday. I would encourage you to read all 686 pages of it. Data centers requires the qualified data centers must now pay quarterly payments to the county treasurer equal to or at least 1% of both the sales price on each purchase of qualified data center equipment and the data center's total amount of electricity billed. That's pretty significant change there. Also requires the data centers submit copies of electricity bills on a quarterly basis along with those payments. The county or city determines how the 1% allocation are allocated and for what purposes they would be used. The current bill does not restrict or earmark those funds.
And one thing I'll add on that, when I was here last time, for those of you who were there, I talked about House Bill 1333. And there was language in there that allowed for something similar to this, but it also allowed for it considered a permitted use, anything that was built on soil that was, I'm going to forget the exact term, but of not great standard. And so that is completely gone. The local control aspect of it is completely gone. And the speaker had a priority that he wanted to get that 1% in a bill somewhere. And the DLGF bill is built with that landed in.
Yeah. Short-term rentals, for those of you grappling with that, it prohibits a local unit from adopting or enforcing an ordinance, resolution, regulation, policy, or rule that prohibits a property owner from using the property as a rental property unless it was adopted prior to January 1 of 2026, in which the unit is exempt from until January 1 of 2028, when it must then conform or comply. To be very frank, and I apologize for those of you in the room, this is directly targeted to Carmel and Fishers, just flat out. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's what it is. There is a lit delay. The bill delays the implementation of the new local income tax system established by Senate Enrolled Act, moving it from 28 to 29. Lit funded debt service. The bill provides that for counties or municipalities that fail to adopt an ordinance to renew an existing expenditure tax rate, the expenditure tax rate for the county or municipality shall be the minimum necessary for existing debt service, the minimum needed for existing debt service. Another piece too, many of you utilize municipal advisors, requires that a municipal entity that hires a municipal advisor to complete an RFP process at least every 2 years. A little color commentary for you that they're mad at municipal advisors explaining Senate Enrolled Act 1 to their clients. I didn't say that. I know that's recorded, but I will deny it. But that's the impetus behind that as well. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's what it is. So.
Yeah, township merger. So there were two bills. There was one in the House, one in the Senate. The Senate one is the one prevailing, but it's now a combination of the two of them. So I'm going to go through that, but bear with me as the final draft was posted last night. So I was going through it at about 10 o'clock. So I'm going to kind of go through the process for the township merger. And then if there's any questions, I can try to answer.
And please note the scoring system. We're not here to try to make it make sense. We're just here to tell you what it does. Right. And it may change as well.
Yeah. So how this is supposed to work is that the DLGF assigns points based upon a township's performance. So if they receive 4 or more points, then they are referred to as a designated township. And then, so in order to assign points, they're looking at things like if the township didn't provide assistance, if they don't actively manage fire or EMS services, if they haven't filed annual reports and monthly reporting, things like that. So they're attributed points, and then those designated townships, they will have to either merge or reorganize. So if the township mostly overlaps with a municipality, so at least 80% of the township boundaries are completely inside of the municipality, and at least 51% of the population resides within the corporate boundaries, then the township must reorganize with the municipality. If it does not overlap with the municipality, then it must merge with another township who also has no more than 4 points. So that's going to be called the recipient township that they would have to merge with. If all county or if all townships in a county have at least 4 points, then the county executive designates 2 townships to act as the recipient townships. Every county has to have 2 townships, and the others will merge. There has to be an ordinance kind of dictating what's going to happen in your county, adopted by 2027, and then all of this must be completed by January 1, 2029. There's some provisions in there dealing with fire protection reporting. So townships will have to report fire protection information, and then the state is to create a statewide fire service database. That's with DLGF and the Department of Homeland Security. And then when the merging or reorganization is occurring, there has to be a joint board. And so it requires the appointment of a joint board consisting of representatives from both the township and the municipality to plan for the reorganization.
And what you're seeing is Representative Schockweiler from Noblesville. I, personally, so more of a personal comment, I think she's worked pretty hard trying to get her hands around township. And you know, if you have a volunteer fire department versus a professional fire department, if you're not filing reports or you're keeping the same budget every year, you don't have a full township board. Okay, what are you doing? Then there's some townships that are, got everything in ducks in a row. They're providing poor relief. They're doing all the different elements. So this is an attempt to kind of recognize that. Senator Niemeyer had some different thoughts as well from Lake County. So you're seeing in this version, I would tell you a little bit of an attempt to get to a final working product. So do pay attention to this. Both commissioners and mayors, they gave a little bit of a better clarity with regards to if you overlap with 80% of municipality versus before, it may have been a little bit more nebulous of, okay, do I take this service and to the county? Do I take this to a municipality? It's gotten a little bit more definition to it. So you're starting to see what could be a final product here. I will tell you though, there's a lot of change on a local government perspective that's considered in this bill, which will be hard.
One thing I misspoke on was it's not every county will have only 2 townships. They have to have at least 2. So
yes,
to make that clear.
You do have any questions with regards to Fun Township piece? This has been tried many times. If this gets across the finish line, there'll be several of us that will pass out in amazement. We had the Kernan Shepherd program. Many of you here are probably familiar with that. A lot of different things there as well.
It's being heard again today in Ways and Means. So.
Yeah. And we will see Snow, Jordan, and Thompson all together this morning. Part of the reason why I thank you for allowing us to do this a little bit quicker this morning. 1161, which is the Local Government Matters with Lawson. This appointment and removal terms for board members. This is really kind of the most important piece. Individuals appointed to boards, commissions, or advisory boards serve at the pleasure of their appointing authority, as long as the appointing official continues in office, or 2, the appointing board retains all original members. Removal for cause is only permissible if these conditions do not apply, ensuring stability and alignment in appointments. There's a couple other pieces in there. I'm pretty sure all of you have, hopefully, employee handbooks. If you do not, please consult an attorney very quickly. So, and then we'll move to income tax credits.
Yeah, so Senate Bill 281 is called Income Tax Credits, Senator Good. This bill just passed out of the Ways and Means Committee, so it's going to be on second reading in the next couple of days. In short, it's just changing how redevelopment tax credits are handed out. So instead of individual cities or projects going directly to the state, projects will have to go mostly through a regional development authority, or RDA, with a regional plan. So it does so by the region's form or use an RDA. The RDA submits a long-term economic development plan to the IEDC. And then if approved, projects inside of that plan can then receive the tax credits. And then the state, it requires the state to set aside $35 million in those redevelopment tax credits each year. And then the state will provide that to the RDAs. And then the RDA awards those tax credits to the private developments within the region. So it's kind of changing the process there. Sean, we kind of briefly talked about that. I don't know if there's any additional questions, but that is one that is also moving. And
What was that bill number?
281.
The 35 million, that's for all the RDAs in the state.
Under this program, yes.
So
That 35,
did they say how that would be distributed? Is it by RDA enthusiasm? Is it by some kind of formula?
I can't answer that question entirely, but
I think it will be an evaluation of merit based. So, I mean, there'll be some selection criteria. It's not defined currently, but it would go to the IEDC.
then it has a small town opportunity initiative in there too. So it's an additional $15 million that will go to small communities, and it does lay out in the bill kind of what qualifies as small community and what makes them eligible.
And then we'll be back to for a post-mortem post-session, obviously, and we'll be back all the time, but a post-mortem piece in terms of kind of going through what when the dust settled, where these things landed, and also really get some input from you all in terms of your initial reaction, and then also over time, what after your experience. There are some bills that they're trying to address some issues that I would say, if they're impacting Central Indiana respectfully, they're actually harming the ones that the behavior or the activity they're trying to so-called encourage. And so that may be an interesting experience for us to potentially gather and share collectively. I know many of you do that on your own, but there's always strength in numbers as well.
Sean, were you going to say something?
Just in reading 281 briefly, I don't think it changes the way that IEDC makes how to allocate the funds. There's still the same, just the applications have to come from the region. So it's an additional layer.
Well said. All right. Thank you all. Do you have
Thank you.
questions? Anna has our, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Back on 1001,
Mhm.
expecting any movement on the road impact fee provisions.
Are you talking about the 1 mile?
And then there's a limitation to kind of the cost of processing for that. Imprecise connection to the purpose of the.
I'm certainly hoping for those changes. Everyone in here should as well. Your projects and how you utilize those funds are easily in excess of 1 mile. And so I do think that there's been just knowing where this side of the table where all your communities are, and seeing some of your bosses, if you will, recently, there's a lot of talk from mayors from Central Indiana about that issue. It's pretty significant. I do think Garton sees that as reasonable. I don't know how that will be viewed moving forward by the whole caucus, though. So, but it is definitely an issue. I've gotten into it personally and professionally with the apartment association over that issue, over them thinking that it's just immediately surrounding them. And I'm like, that's just bogus. The quality place, quality of life initiatives that many in this room are leaders, I would say arguably leaders of, and realize that importance. Those areas are much more expansive than a city block or a quarter of a mile. So,
Good news is, we'll know by about 3:30.
Yeah. well, I'm hoping by 3:30. It could be a long day, so we'll see.
Give a sense how much.
Not at all yet.
Not at all officially. I mean, I have pretty good intel from their committee meeting last night, but until you see it in writing, it's really kind of pointless. And how they're behaving as of late, they come out of a committee pre-meeting and the language is different. So it's a little bit of a challenge. And then there's times lately that you think there's a drafting error. There's not a drafting error. They knew exactly what was being done. So those are things that I guess with time and understanding all the players, you can kind of decipher a little bit quicker. But I do think though that there's a lot of good progress on 1001 from local government being heard, but the proof is in the pudding when you actually see the writing. So, Eric.
For 1001, where is the cry coming for all these changes? I mean, is it central Indiana? Is it out throughout the state?
It's throughout the entire state. There's some communities that think that they're not growing because they don't have any housing. The question has to come though, what comes first? The quality job, quality place, quality schools. I think all those things are factors. Many of us in this room, or I would say arguably all of us, have a lot of those things at very high levels, which is a blessing. Others focus on, I don't have a affordable house. I've politely, snarkily, sarcastically, a pain in the ass way have said, so are you going to start charging less for a house if we magically increase your profit margin? So, I mean, sometimes being crass works. So land values drive costs. Density drives costs. Sure, architectural standards do too. I think, at least for myself, speaking just as myself, philosophically, government regulation does increase costs. Okay, I'll agree to that every day of the week. But you're not going to dramatically increase housing affordability if you don't have a reason to live there. So that's the other challenge. You do have an affordability issue across the country, but if you look at the Wall Street Journal and other rankings of affordability, Indiana actually does really well. We have markets throughout the entire state that are rated top 10 of affordability. Now we do have some high cost areas, which are primarily located in central Indiana. So, but somehow we continue to grow in population. So there's a little bit more of a philosophical discussion there that has to happen. You do struggle though, trying to find housing for, let's just say public safety, school teachers. Those are really strong. And then Carmel did a study 2 summers ago, if I'm correct, where a pretty significant number of their residents wouldn't be able to afford the current house they live in. That's a lot of my friends' parents because they love the community and they're retired today and they're piece. So that's the piece, not to be too terribly long-winded, which I am being, but that's the challenge with legislators out in the state. I think if I just would have affordable houses, my community will grow. And it's a lot more complicated than that. And it's pretty short-sighted. I hate to be that long-winded, but it's a complicated issue, many of which you all are leaders of handling those issues for the state. Arguably, this room represents the overwhelming growth of the entire state year in, year out, and will continue to do so, thankfully, for the foreseeable future. You do have great pockets up in Northwest Indiana and some other areas that have some great growth, but collectively, this room represents overwhelming growth of the entire state.
Questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for an in-depth report. Bad news. So items for recommendation, we'll move on, need approval for the minutes from the December joint committee meeting. I think everybody got a chance to read that, so we'll need to approve the motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, second.
Second, Will Hay.
And we have a motion and second. All those in favor, by saying aye. Any opposed, by saying aye. Hearing none, we'll go on to the minutes for the October 15th, 2025 policy committee meeting. Same thing, we need a motion to approve.
So.
Second, Will Hay.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor by saying aye. Any disapproved by saying aye. Hearing none, we'll go on to item number 5, the IMPO Executive Committee election. And
So, once every year, we do have elections. We do have staggered elections under the newer or newish bylaws. And then we have, the IMPO Executive Committee is. Excluded city, county, town, largest city, largest transit provider. Today we have 3 classes that are up for election. Within city, county, and all 3 of those committee members have thrown their names back in the hat and they were interested or willing to continue serving in that role. I will tell you, the 2 members, both Ryan Kinnan from the town of Avon and Mayor. And obviously, the things happening in Beach Grove, well, in Texas, that he wasn't going to make it today. In things with Ryan Kinnan, apologize. So if you are one of those classes, you should have received a ballot within your name tags. And we will tell you, we can also handle just one vote. And probably the easiest way to do so. Assuming there's a petition. But we can take nominations. If somebody missed the ballot and was very interested in sending.
So it's okay, move along. Is there any, look, can we do these one at a time? Like, is there any for the excluded city? Is there any other nomination outside of James Kaufman? Seeing nobody rush to raise their hand or make a nomination, we will close the nominations for the excluded city. All those in favor of reappointing James Kaufman by saying aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Under the county, oh, sorry.
Yeah, you called the question that we didn't have a motion.
For voice.
Yeah, I don't know. Or, yeah, okay.
We're voting by class, right? This is voting.
So, I want to make sure we do this right. Mark Myers would be upset.
Yeah.
So for the county, representation, Mark Harebrant is the, current and, wants to do this again. Is there any other nominations for the county representation? Hearing none, we will close the county representation. All those in favor of electing Mark Harebrant by saying aye?
This is just county reps, right?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so Mark, you've been elected. We'll go on to the town, Ryan Cannon. Has showed interest in coming back again. Is there any other nominations for the town representation? Hearing none, we will close that section and we'll recommend that we put Ryan back in by saying aye. Well, do we need a motion or anything apart?
You've not done.
Okay, we need a motion to put Ryan back in.
So moved, Mark Morgan, Town of Danville.
Need a second.
Second, Lance.
Okay, we have a second. All those in favor by saying aye. Any opposed, by saying. Okay, we have that done. And now what were we gonna do?
The slate as presented. Everything.
I move to approve the slate as presented.
Second.
And we have a second. All those in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we're moving on. Thank you. We'll go on to item number 6, Metropolitan Transportation Plan Amendment number 3. Dave Martin.
Good morning. So today I'm bringing forward MTP Amendment 3 for approval. The amendment includes about 3 non-exempt projects, NDOT-led projects that need to be added or updated to the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So these projects have been reviewed and are in alignment and with the adopted MTP. So I'll briefly walk you through those projects. First, it's the State Road 37, which is new grade separated interchanges in Hamilton County. This project covers new construction from just south of Greenfield Avenue to North State Road 32 and 38. Second is a new project in Marion County. It's an I-65 North Indianapolis downtown bridge from Central Avenue to Fall Creek. So this is a major bridge replacement project that includes added travel lanes and associated interchange modifications. Finally, it's an I-70 added lanes in Hendricks County from South State Road 39 to State Road 267. This project is being added to existing and committed project list. Overall, these are federally compliant, and so that's all. If there's any questions, let me know.
So just a reminder, this is a good reminder just for everybody, we do have NDOT in the room, and there are a couple of questions at tech. Also a reminder, if you are an LPA or a community and you've ever had projects going forward for either an amendment, plan, we would attend the education program. It is highly encouraged to have somebody in the room when those are moving forward, just in case questions come up. In that case, do have NDOT in the room today, I'll answer questions, but just a reminder on the local level, we highly encourage you to be in the room as well for any of those you know, some conversations happened offline. Are there any additional questions for NDOT?
Just to note that I'll learn to do close.
Yeah.
Item for public hearing.
Yeah, so we have resolution 2026 IMPO. That's it, 001, public hearing. So at this time, we will open this up for public hearing. And there's no one on the screen.
Nope.
Okay, so, all right, we will close the public hearing. So we will need a motion to approve resolution 2026 IMPO-001.
I'll move to approve resolution number 26-IMPO-001.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to item number 7, Transportation Improvement Program 2026-2029 and agreement.
Is me. I'm gonna stay here. If everybody is okay with that. Paul Jackson is no longer with the IMPO. He's now with moving and congratulations for moving. It's been in conversation there her vote cruising. So I'm pitching with my notes and, we'll see how this goes. There are two resolutions before you. One, really just echoes that of the Metropolitan Transportation Plan Amendment. So we've got I-70, State Road 37, NDOT Downtown Bridge Project. I think I need a name for that. I know we're trying to get away from a name for that project, but, Downtown Bridge Project. And then the US 31 level up 31. All of those projects, they are non-exempt projects. So just a reminder for those that get non-exempt confused like me. Non-exempt are when there are air quality projects that require additional approval from the federal government in the additional process. So we break them up, the ones that have air quality impacts into non-exempt and the ones that are exempt, right? We break those in a different resolution because those can move forward almost immediately after your approval. So yeah, those projects need to go forward. The same four projects. Any questions about those non-exempt projects? Okay, there are the second resolution, exempt 003, that is 10 projects, 24 Indigo projects that are moving forward. Again, these are all either state funded or Indigo funded. Not considering question.
For resolution 2025-IMPO-002, the non-exempt, we are now opening up to a public hearing. Any comments, questions? It's on the screen. Make comments, so we will close the public hearing and we need a motion to approve, please. So, sure. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by saying no. Hearing none, we will go on with resolution 2025-IMPO-003 exempt. We are now opening up for a public hearing. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, you close the public hearing. We now need a motion. Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by saying no?
We do have a couple of announcements related to the tip. So as you all know, all projects were submitted in the fall. We do anticipate those recommendations will be made soon, is what my notes say. Soon. We're not saying that it's going to be safe. We are working through, we have outstanding questions out to you, LPAs. But we are working kind of through the final stages of that. So, not going to put a factor in on it, but, also want to let you know there is a subset of members of this group and tech that are working through new project selection criteria for scoring of the project. That is very technical and we are in the throes of it. Very deep in it right now, but it is still the objective that will be brought before the board in June for approval with the intent to use the new scoring criteria in the fall. So we still have some time, but I will tell you, I'm very committed to trying to get this selection criteria right. And it's a process, right? Where we're looking at using the current criteria, current call for projects or previous calls for projects to kind of look at what the changes do, right, in the selection criteria and the applicant review. Small tweaks can have big impacts when it comes to projects. We're working our way through that. Thank you for everybody who has sat in those meetings. They are 2 hours long most of the time and it's going, yeah, very deep, very tight.
All right, next item, safety action plan. And Kimmy Ward.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dan Malson of Kimley Horn and Associates. I'm supporting Andrea Miller and her team at the IMPO with updating the Central Indiana Regional Safety Action Plan. Wanted to give you an update today just on how things are going, what we've done so far, and what's coming next. So I'll just give a quick project overview, talk about one of the big things that we'll be trying to finalize in the next month with a potential update to our Safety Action Plan vision statement. We've completed the high injury network redevelopment, and then I want to talk about upcoming partner and public engagement opportunities, as well as a few project next steps with you today. So the quick overview, the Safety Action Plan update underway is funded through the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program. That grant program also funded the initial creation of the Safety Action Plan in 2022, and this subsequent funding is meant to just take new data that has come out in terms of crash data, other needs since 2022, and refresh a lot of that analysis that was done 3 years ago to make sure it remains current. The required components, just as a reminder of what that safety action plan includes, there's this leadership commitment and goal setting piece that I'll talk about shortly. There's a safety steering committee that serves as a planning structure guiding this safety action plan update. There's that safety data analysis that we do. We've got engagement and collaboration aspects through the form of stakeholder meetings and through public engagement. And then we're going to be recommending both policy and process changes regionally and locally across Central Indiana, as well as identifying some potential strategies and project selections for some of the highest scoring needed roadway corridors from a safety perspective. And then lastly, provide a little bit of guidance on how to track performance ongoing forward. The project began in September of last year, 2025, and we're looking to have that final adopted safety action plan ready in August of this year, 2026. We're about halfway through right now. Like I said, completed the recent safety analysis and currently updating other sections of the plan as we over the next few months. So one of the things that we are considering and that we're bringing forth to the Safety Steering Committee is a potential update to our safety plan vision. So the existing resolution that the IMPO policy committee has signed, is to reduce fatal and serious injury crashes by 35% by the year 2040. That established a 2020 baseline for fatal and serious injury crashes that you're trying to get to by 2040. Even though it was adopted by the IMPO in 2022, there was an establishment of that 2020 baseline year. That means that our 2040 target would be about total 467 fatal and serious injury crashes. As you can kind of see in the blue line here, we're trending in the wrong direction right now. We're trying to right that ship and start trending in the right direction again. But one of the things that we are bringing forth to the Safety Steering Committee is to consider whether slight adjustments to how we're tracking that goal would be appropriate. So right now, that tracking is from 2020, and it's just tracking year-over-year fatal and serious injuries. So there's a lot of noise in that data. Potential update options that we're asking the steering committee to consider. INDOT has a goal of a 2% annual reduction from that 2020 baseline. And it would really create a similar trajectory as the target that we have set right now, but just kind of set more to align with INDOT's goal. So that 2040 target would be within that 460 to 470 fatal and serious injury crashes range. The other option would be to keep the 35% by 2040 goal that the IMPO set, but we just have an adjusted start date, updating the baseline to 2023. There was a change in how incapacitating injuries, serious injuries were counted. That kind of took place with crash data collection systems between 2019 and 2022. So starting at 2023, obviously also starting after the biggest impact of COVID, changing some of those crash statistics. And then the other change for that would be to use a 5-year rolling average to smooth out some of that trend line data over time. As you can see, with that update, we're still really at that same 468 fatal serious injury crashes number. The target's roughly the same. It's just changing how we track things over time to make it a little bit smoother. So the Safety Steering Committee is going to meet in March again, and we'll vote on a preferred, keep the same commitment or adjust it. And then after that recommendation, if there's a change or an update recommended, a new resolution will come to the IMPO boards for consideration and adoption in the next few months. Wanted to talk next about the high injury network. So as I had mentioned, there are 7 key components of the safety action plan, and a very important one is the safety analysis component. So we're looking at in that analysis to identify sections of roadway where there are severe crashes, fatal crashes, serious injury crashes. So that's been a lot of churning numbers out in maps, looking at crashes, assigning them to segments, and then from there, prioritizing, scoring, and ranking those roadway segments based on the highest number of fatal and serious injury crashes per mile. The results of that regional analysis look like this. This represents the regional high injury network through that consistent methodology. And it is based upon just the 2022 methodology, but where the 2022 plan used 2017 through 2021 data, this plan is going to use 2020 through 2024 crash data instead. So just more recent crash data being analyzed there. Like I mentioned, there's been between 2019 and 2023, a slight change to how suspected serious injury crashes are now being used to define serious injury instead of incapacitating injury crashes. But in general, the same approach with a couple of minor changes, some segments that were slightly shorter than the previous minimum of 1 mile, just from where there's really short block lengths in the urban area. Overall, the high injury network region-wide comprises 239 roadway miles across 172 distinct roadway segments with an average segment length of 1.4 miles. Now, you notice that probably the regional high injury network generally focuses more on the urban area, and that's just a result of the methodology that was used. So one of the things that we were doing this time that we didn't do last time is for each community within the IMPO service area, we're using that same methodology, but just applying it to that community's roadways and identifying their top several roadways that they can focus on. So even if it's not a road that appears on the regional high injury network, we want to give each community a map that they can work from to identify, hey, where are the biggest needs for roadway safety improvements? So each community that does not have an existing high injury network, so some communities have gotten their own safety planning grants through the SS4A program and are developing their own maps, that's perfectly fine. We don't want to overwrite those, but for the communities that did not do that, through this process, you'll get your own map with the top several corridors identified. And we're just trying to avoid redundant and conflicting maps. So if you've got one already, don't worry, you can continue to use yours. But we want to give something for everybody, and that includes both the municipalities as well as the unincorporated parts of a county. Will get their own map. Last thing I wanted to talk about, just talking about what we're doing in terms of our partner and public engagement as part of this project. So like I said, we have that safety steering committee that's meeting 5 times over the course of this plan update process virtually. We are also doing some small group interviews, and I know I see a couple of familiar faces there. Mayor Perrin, thank you for participating in our small group interviews this month. But for those that had reached out as part of the safety steering committee that wanted to talk about specific safety needs, we're meeting virtually over the course of this month. If for some reason you didn't get a chance and you're interested in meeting with us, we're happy to set up some time to catch up and learn about what safety challenges your community is experiencing so that we can get that documented and included in the regional plan. There's also currently ongoing an online survey for members of the public that's focused on safety perceptions. How do we prioritize different safety needs and projects? What are your preferences there? And what might some trade-offs be on types of projects that we identify? And we're going to use that public input to identify what general strategies, policies might float to the top of the prioritized project list when we create that later in the plan development process. Finally, we're going to sort of culminate the safety action plan update with a 2026 safety summit this summer, tentatively scheduled right now for June. The plan for that is to be up to 100 people attending, both partner agency representatives and members of the public. Half-day event with a keynote speaker and also an opportunity to review the draft updated regional safety action plan and provide. And we're trying to coordinate that with the public comment period for the document so that can sort of kick off that public comment process before it goes to the board for final approval. Last, and then for that project, the other goals might be, we're just trying to have an open discussion about different opportunities for traffic safety in central Indiana, And then we want to make it interactive. So we're looking for communities that may be doing something unique with roadway safety that maybe want to present at this summit in like a little breakout session. We're really interested to hear about what communities are working on, and hopefully that can inspire other communities to adopt similar practices and programs. So with that, I just want to wrap up really quick, talking briefly about what comes next in this project. So we're wrapping up the development of those community scale high injury networks this month. We have all of the individual municipal high injury networks drafted for IMPO review, and we're in the process now of drafting those unincorporated county high injury networks as well. We are also conducting our policy analysis this month, and then our subconsultant Foursquare Integrated Transportation Partners is taking the lead on that piece. Next month, there's a new section of this plan that's called a vulnerable road user assessment that is specifically looking at risk factors related to pedestrians and bicyclists across central Indiana. That's a new chapter of the plan that wasn't part of the plan before. That analysis will be wrapping up next month, and they'll be looking more than just at crash data, but also some other factors that are associated with higher risk to those road users and identifying some of the top hotspots for those types of pedestrian and cyclist users where they may be at greatest risk of crashes across central Indiana. We'll also be identifying more broadly region-wide project opportunities and prioritizing those. And then later this spring, we're going to be pulling all of that material into a draft updated safety action plan document that will go to the IMPO for review. Lastly, I'll just note that there are a couple other pieces of the safety action plan grant that the IMPO is also conducting separate from this effort. So there's a data procurement piece. So the IMPO has procured mobile data-based safety analysis tools to supplement crash data that they already maintain and clean. And then there's also a separate procurement led to identify safety-focused infrastructure inventory data. So they're partnering with a data vendor to identify locations of safety infrastructure that may not already be part of an asset database locally. And separately, there will be another set of intersection road safety audits that the IMPO will lead with support from a different consulting team, and the high injury network results that we're finalizing right now are going to inform site selection for those safety audits that'll begin later this spring. And again, we're seeking a broad geographic spread of locations as part of that. So even though the regional high injury network is concentrated towards the most urban portions of the central Indiana IMPO region, they're still trying to seek a broad geographic spread of locations for those road safety audits. That concludes my update, and I wanted to pause and see if I could answer questions for anybody. Yes, go ahead.
So instead of just looking at the number of crashes, or as part of this, looking at what root cause the crashes was or the accidents?
Yes. So we look at manner of collision. We look at collision location. We try to identify, what types of factors might be different in terms of, okay, what are our issues at intersections right now? What types of crashes are we seeing there? And what can we maybe systemically recommend to change that versus what's happening on rural roadways? What are we seeing right there? What sort of low-cost countermeasures could we put in to change those? So we do look at the causes, and then we look at the context broadly too to see which countermeasures make sense here.
When you're looking at the causes, what things are there things we can actually implement that would fix the causes that are causing this?
Yes, definitely. So, I would talk about, I can go into a lot of detail. Some of the themes that we've been seeing are in the more urban areas. We definitely see a high rate of vulnerable road user crashes. And one of the things that we're going to be doing as part of our vulnerable road user assessment is identifying low-cost things to improve visibility of those vulnerable road users crossing the street. That can take the form of improved lighting at those crossing locations, better signage, more conspicuous striping, and better daylighting of approaching a crossing location so that there's better vision of a pedestrian or a cyclist that might be crossing there. That's one example. Rural locations, we see some run off the road crashes. We see some speeding, especially as you're entering smaller towns. And there's different traffic calming measures we might be able to recommend in those locations, for example, to try to control some of those factors that can make a crash more severe. So speeding is one of those big ones that we see, especially in the more rural portions of the county where you've got fewer traffic signal stop signs to slow you down.
And then what happens when we don't meet our goal? Is there any kind of federal funding stop or what happens? Because obviously we're not on a track to do that. So
correct. That's a great question. The SS Spray program has not specified any penalty associated with not meeting the goal, but one of the requirements of the program is that there's an adopted resolution from a governing body setting a goal to achieve. So that would be a matter of conversation among the IMPO. And Anna, I don't know if you want to add anything to that about?
So that's when we set our vision zero goal with last accessory update, because it was required as part of that process and that grant.
Mhm.
So there's a look at possibly revisiting that goal.
Yeah. And I think that's the intent, right? Is that, you know, even if you're not on the right track, you want to be looking at this again to see what do we need to be changing? What can we be doing better? If we're falling behind on that goal, what do we need to change? Is that something that we have the wherewithal to change? I know that one of the most common things that we hear from communities when we're trying to set this goal is, okay, so much of this may be outside of our control. We talk about things like driver behavior, distracted driving, whereas engineers were focused on the roadway. We're trying to identify policies that focus on education and enforcement too, to try to address some of those other causes. But as y'all maintain this plan going forward, there's always that option to revisit that goal and to set a new target if that target is becoming less and less reasonable as data goes on and as the realities of what funding is available, what strategies are being selected, kind of becomes more apparent.
Same question, I have a lot of that are required federally in setting targets. They require us to set targets a lot for trade and a lot of reasons. There was nothing in the old bill that said there's consequences so far. It's even perhaps all that something.
So how often do you have to update this?
That's a great plan.
There-
You know that.
There's not a set recommendation. I'd say just when you look at 5 years of crash data, general practice, I would say is about every 5 years is a good, that, there isn't a general guidance on how to do it, but that's like what I kind of think is a reasonable, hey, it's been enough time, let's take a look at this again. So.
Basis.
And there's annual safety reporting that the IMPO does. It's just not to this level of detail as like a full detailed safety action plan. So that is an ongoing part of the IMPO's existing programs.
Sorry to.
Yeah.
When I present the annual safety report, that is the progress reporting for the safety action plan when it comes to you each year. I present that each summer. You'll be seeing the report from 2025 sometime, probably the June joint meeting.
And then just like kind of reading the tea leaves a little bit, the SS4A program was adopted part of the 2022 bipartisan infrastructure law. This coming year, 2026, will be the last year that program is authorized. However, the current administration's safety is still their top priority at the DOT. And now there's a bunch of communities nationwide that have a safety action plan and are looking for funding to implement things. So I think there's a lot of clamor to keep this program going. I'm optimistic that it will continue. And we may see changes to the name or changes to what projects get priority. But from what we're seeing at the US DOT right now, safety is still first and foremost what they're trying to focus on. So. Any other questions? Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
We have covered a lot today. We have one more item left.
One more item, IMPO gets certified once every 4 years. We are up for certification by FHWA, April 14th and 15th. That was on great, so we have policy in the morning. And we will finish and go into certification when they look at what we do and essentially for federal regulations on all of our core products. This year, like this is not our first rodeo. John and I have done this multiple times together as a good chunk of our staff. There's less FHWA staff, the pendulum and swinging. There's been new guidance and new executive orders and those types of things. So it's just a little different than I think teaming after any other certification that we have had before. We will tell you it is very common practice that FHWA will come once we have certification. They normally report out in means of the report. They will give us the written report, pre-classifications, recommendations, corrective action, which is what I don't want. We're very few of, and then accommodation. I'm saying that, and then that's kind of like, oh, we get a gold star for this as well. We've been told this year they will not come to our meeting. They will hand over the report. They'll be happy to sit down with the chair and the vice chair and walk them through the report, the interaction. Public safety meetings, not what they're currently doing right now, and so they will just handle for that. I think that's fine. We can sit down with FHWA and FTA and understand and solve three categories. of what we did about us. But for those of you who've been around a long time, that are probably used to FHWA coming in. Kind of presenting those things. Also for our stakeholders in the room, our partners, our Help by Design, some of those. Normally there's a public meeting that we will come to and talk about the IMPO, things doing well or bad, and give that direct feedback again. And that same kind of public engagement interaction that is only going to be accepted in the written form. So we will publicly advertise, we will make sure those are available. I will probably send you sending out there's email for making sure those get to our community partners. But again, that is just a written process this time and not actually an engagement opportunity that they should be doing. The rules be following what they're telling us is going to happen. So stay tuned. IMPO is always in the room as our largest transit provider, as in INDOT. Normally the planning division, right? It's multitude of us kind of coming together. So just an update on that. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me or Sean. And happy to dive further into that.
Just to clarify, who's
FHWA and FTA. I believe it'll be FHWA, the Indiana office. If you know, they're bringing one person over from Illinois who wants to be trained for certification, and I don't know from FTA, we haven't pulled that, but yeah. Handful representatives from FHWA, probably one.
Okay, is there any other questions? If not, we're ready for motion. Sorry, go ahead.
Can I do one quick update? I just wanted to share and do a quick plug. We do have a speaker series that we're going to be doing this year, and I just wanted to let you all know about that quickly. We're going to be kicking it off with a first speaker session toward the end of March, and that's going to be focused on housing. And then we're going to have 3 more over the course of the year. And I wanted to kind of mention that after the safety update, because one's going to be about kind of public transportation, just people's experiences. So kind of focusing on that. One's going to be about micro mobility. So we know that like Carmel has passed a new micro mobility ordinance. We're looking for a couple of other experts to also come and speak. And then safety technology. So talking about like automated enforcement, things like that, safety zones. So we're going to have a series of speaker events over the course of this year that we're planning. Just wanted to let you all know, but you should see more information about this.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, I think we're ready for motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Second one.
All those in favor, I say aye. Thank you.